Welcome back to the Income Generation, the show where we share valuable financial information for that critical period in life when you're either in or approaching retirement. I'm David Scranton, your host. And today we're going to be focusing on one of the most important ingredients in retirement planning, no matter who you are, and that is Social Security. Whether you realize it or not, your Social Security benefits might just be the single largest asset on your balance sheet. And sometimes the difference between taking your benefits in the number one best way versus the second best way could mean an additional $100,000 or more of additional income over the course of your lifetime. Making the most of your benefits requires making the right decisions. And there are a lot of decisions to make when it comes to Social Security and a lot of options to consider. In fact, as you'll hear later from our guest, for a typical couple in their 60s, there might be over 500 possible combinations of different options, different ways in which you could take your benefits. And the less typical your situation, the more your options increase, up to as many as 25 million different options in certain cases. So on today's show, you're going to learn what you can do in order to, number one, feel confident that you're making the best decisions for your personal situation. Second, avoid costly mistakes. You're also going to learn some things about the Social Security system itself that you should know. And perhaps most importantly, you're going to learn why it's so necessary to coordinate your benefits with the rest of your retirement plan. This means having the right asset allocation for your other sources of retirement income. If you're part of the income generation, meaning those of us age 50 or over, then today's topic is especially important for a lot of reasons. But allow me to just highlight three. First, the Social Security system itself is struggling. And there are a lot of people in our age group that have concerns about its solvency. One of the biggest challenges facing the system is the fact that people are living longer and longer than ever before. That means the Social Security Administration is paying out benefits to people for a longer period of time, much longer than the administration ever thought that it might have to. Compounding that problem is the fact that the worker to retiree ratio has changed dramatically over the years. When Social Security first started, there were approximately 40 people actively working, paying into the system for every single retiree. Whereas as of today, there are only 2.8 people paying into the system for every one person that retires. And within 20 years or so, it's projected to be only a 2-to-1 ratio. Different proposals have been on the table for years now to address some of these challenges, but even more importantly, according to a recent OASDI trustees report, even without these reforms, there are enough reserves in the system now to pay 100% of promised benefits all the way to age 2036. In other words, the income generation can feel reasonably assured that our full benefits will be available to us when we're ready to take them. But that doesn't necessarily mean that everything is hunky-dory with this. This brings me to my second reason why this topic is so important. Now, as you may know, for only the third time in over 40 years, the Social Security Administration announced that recipients would receive no cost of living increase in their benefits for 2016 because of low inflation. Unfortunately, that begs the following question. What happens if we should sink back into another recession, or even worse, go into a long-term deflationary economy? Might the administration then decide to eliminate the cost of living adjustment known as the COLA benefit? Might they decide to eliminate it long-term or even permanently, or even worse, in a deflationary environment, maybe take some benefits away? I think it's, at bare minimum, a possibility that needs to be at least considered when you look at how many private companies have totally eliminated cost of living increases since the last recession. Lastly, the third reason I'm devoting an entire show to this topic is the one that I mentioned at the very start. Social Security is simply a major financial asset, if not the major financial asset for most retirees. Think about it. Say your monthly Social Security benefit is $2,000. In order to replace that income through another investment source and to feel reasonably confident that you'll have that income until the end of your life, you would need to start with a pool of money somewhere between $500,000 and $800,000. For the average American, that means that Social Security represents about 40% of their retirement income. So it is a big deal. So big that you simply cannot afford to make the same costly mistake that 80% of Americans do every year. You'll hear more about that today from our special guest, Dr. Laurence Kotlikoff. He's co-author of the New York Times bestseller, Get What's Yours: The Secrets to Maxing Out Your Social Security. You'll also learn why trying to figure out your best Social Security options on your own is extremely difficult, and why the last place you want to go for help or for answers is actually the Social Security Administration. As a governmental agency, the administration can only provide you with basic information, and it actually isn't allowed to make specific recommendations for your situation. Of all the different areas of retirement planning, this is one area where I firmly believe that you can really truly benefit by working with a qualified financial advisor with Social Security as a specialty. A truly qualified advisor has access to industry software designed specifically for Social Security planning, and he or she has the experience in how to use it. A good advisor can process your personal information and make recommendations that the Social Security Administration isn't qualified to do or even allowed to do. And just as importantly, an advisor can help you see to it that your benefits are well coordinated with your overall retirement strategy. In fact, as I said earlier, that's crucial. And that's why it's going to be the topic of today's market breakdown. So stay with us. We'll be right back after the break. This is fun. This is great. 3, 2, 1. I'd like to take a few seconds and tell you why I decided to write the book entitled Return on Principle. Basically, it all boils down to this. Let's face it, you deserve to live a happy retirement. It's as simple as that. But for many, the subject of money, finance, and math is complicated. Here's a fun fact. Many Americans claim that they'd much rather clean a toilet than calculate a tip in a restaurant. Thank you, I guess. But it doesn't have to be that complicated. Using the 7 core values I outline in my book, you too will be able to build a life based upon the right core principles. Cut. Return on Principle isn't just a book about financial investing, it's about investing in your life. I know for a fact that you're going to love it. Okay, now it's just getting a little weird here. As most people know, you have the option of taking your Social Security benefits anytime after age 62, but you have to begin taking them by age 70. Most people also know that, generally speaking, the longer you can delay taking your benefits, the more money you'll be entitled to. So people end up falling into one of two categories. They either start taking benefits the day they retire, or they retire and postpone their benefits in order to get a higher amount. In my experience, both of these strategies work best with an asset allocation that's conservatively designed for income instead of growth, which of course is one of the reasons I stress this concept so much on the show. This means an asset allocation designed to protect your principal and to generate enough interest and dividends to supplement your Social Security income. Now, let's say you start taking benefits the day you retire, whenever that might be. But now let's say you haven't looked at your asset allocation and you aren't generating enough interest or dividends, that is income, from your investments. In that case, you might very well end up having to supplement your Social Security by taking money from principal. And that could be a big problem. As I've talked about on previous shows, any financial strategy that requires you to draw down your principal, even occasionally, is extremely dangerous. Think about it. The average life expectancy today is longer than ever before. In fact, people today typically need to plan for about a 30-year retirement. That makes spending any principal a very slippery slope when you're in your 60s or early 70s. Think of it like a 30-year mortgage. At the very beginning, tell me, are you paying back much principal at all? Of course not. At the beginning, you're paying primarily interest and just a wee little bit of principal. But with each passing year, you pay a little less interest and a little more principal as the balance gets paid down. Somehow, by the time the 30 years goes by, your mortgage is completely paid off. Now, I'd like you to think about that for a moment in reverse. Think about the fact that you might have $1 million generating 2% per year. If you take just a little bit more than that $20,000 of interest per year, just a little bit of principal, that sum will be depleted within 30 years. Just like that mortgage is paid off within 30 years. So, if all of your money is in a bank or in CDs, for example, when you retire, then you clearly don't need me to tell you that it probably isn't going to generate enough interest to eliminate the risk of spending principal. Even if you have $1 million in the bank at 2% interest, if you're lucky, that's only $20,000 a year to supplement your retirement income. But what about the stock market? Well, unfortunately, the math is eerily similar. Even if you have $1 million in a stock or stock mutual funds today, with an average dividend around 2%, that still earns you just $20,000 per year of income, which for most people simply won't be enough. And in this situation, some people end up selling shares of their stocks or stock mutual funds every year to supplement their income. This is a trap you definitely do not want to fall into during retirement. I call it reverse dollar cost averaging, and I've talked about this on other shows. It basically amounts to cannibalizing your mutual fund or cannibalizing your stock portfolio. And it is one of the most common and costly mistakes that retirees can make with their money today. But what if you fall into that second category for taking benefits? The one where you retire at age 62, for example, but delay your benefits until age 70 in order to get the higher amount. Well, in that case, you not only have to think about supplementing your Social Security income once it kicks in, but you have to think about how to fill the 8-year gap until it does. So if you don't have the right asset allocation, the same potential problems exist, but even for a longer period. And the potential risks associated with this, what I call reverse dollar cost averaging, in this case are even worse. And here's why. Let's say, for example, that you decide to leave your $1 million in stocks or stock mutual funds for those 8 years. And another major market drop occurs, like the two we've had already since the turn of the century. Remember, the first drop from 2000 to 2003, when the technology bubble burst, took a nearly 50% drop. And then it took 7 years to get back to its previous peak. Then when it finally did get back in 2007, then from 2007 to 2009, the market took nearly a 60% drop during the financial crisis. And this time, it took approximately 6 years to recover. So the question becomes, what would that mean for you as a 62-year-old retiree who's taking assets, who's spending down a portion of principal for those 8 years while you're waiting to get Social Security? Well, if you should get caught in one of these downdrafts, as I like to call them, it means that each and every year that the market drops, you'll have to sell more shares of your stocks or more shares of your mutual funds to get that same withdrawal, to get your needed cash flow. So even when the market finally does come back within 7 years or so, by the time you get to age 70, you still will not have come anywhere close to getting back all your money. Again, that's because you were forced to cannibalize your fund by selling more shares in all those years when the market was down. In fact, even if you were taking out only $40,000 or $50,000 a year from that $1 million asset, you may end up with less than half of your $1 million 7 years later. In the end, you will have cannibalized your fund to the point where it would have been better had you put it in the bank, or actually even better had you put it under the mattress. Here's the bottom line. No matter what option you decide is best for taking your Social Security benefits, having the proper asset allocation for your other assets is absolutely critical. Again, that means an allocation that is every bit as secure as Social Security itself. An asset allocation that generates enough interest and dividends to satisfy your Social Security income without having to touch your principal. Ideally, you would also want an allocation that gives you an opportunity to maximize your Social Security benefits even further through strategic reinvestment of interest and dividends. Think about that for a moment. What if you could set your retirement savings up in such a way that it gave you all the income you needed to live comfortably and to achieve whatever your financial goals are? This would make Social Security a nice-to-have luxury that you could simply put to work for you. How would that feel? Wouldn't that give you an extra sense of security and increase your odds of being able to leave something nice behind for your children? Of course it would. And the good news is that it doesn't have to be a pie-in-the-sky dream. It can and probably should be an achievable goal, but it requires the right strategy. If you've watched this show before, you know that I believe this means a strategy built around conservative, non-stock market alternatives designed specifically to generate income through interest and dividends, and alternatives designed to protect your assets from major market downturns. Again, one of the greatest things about Social Security is that it's secure. It's an income source you can count on from retirement through the end of your life. And from everything that we can see and hear so far from the Social Security Administration, it's not going anywhere. In that sense, it serves as a good example of what I believe the vast majority of all your assets should look like as you approach retirement. That is secure and designed to generate more than enough income to meet your needs and to achieve your goals. Stay with us. We'll be right back after the break with Dr. Kotlikoff. If you're not using someone who's well-trained in fixed income and you're born before 1966, it may just be time for you to break up with that advisor and move on. I would suggest someone who will care for you through these important years of your life. If you need help finding someone, call or write us. I'd also like to remind you of the special report entitled The Income Generation. This is available free to you, our loyal viewers, online. If you haven't downloaded your report, pick it up after the show. If you're near or in retirement, head over to theincomegeneration.com and download your special report written specifically for the needs of the income generation. Again, those born before 1966. I'm David Scranton, and you've been watching The Income Generation. I'm happy to say that we have the absolute perfect guest for today's show. Laurence J. Kotlikoff literally wrote the book on Social Security benefits. It's entitled Get What's Yours: The Secrets to Maxing Out Your Social Security. It is a New York Times bestseller, which was recently published in a revised, updated edition. This particular book has also been called an indispensable guide for anyone wanting to get the most out of their Social Security benefits. In fact, it's just one of the many books written or co-written by Mr. Kotlikoff, who's also an economics professor at Boston University, an associate of the National Bureau of Economic Research, and director of the Tax Analysis Center. He's also president of a financial planning software company, among many other things. He also happens to be running for president, so we'll definitely talk about that. Welcome to the show, Dr. Kotlikoff. Good to have you.
Great to be with you, David. Thanks for having me.
Your book opens with a chapter entitled Why We Bothered, which explains what motivated you to and your co-authors to write the book in the first place. Can you talk about some of those motivating factors?
Well, people are leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars, depending on their circumstances, on the table because they don't understand the terribly complicated, outrageously long number of rules that Social Security has. They don't understand the payoff from waiting till 70 to start collecting your retirement benefit, and the payoff to wait till 66 in many cases for your spousal or widower benefit or divorce benefits. And they also don't understand that there are about 12 different benefits that are available to you under Social Security, not just your retirement benefit. They don't, and the third thing they do not understand is how to time your benefits to be strategic to make sure that you get as much as you can. So we're trying to make sure that everybody gets what they paid for. We're not trying to bankrupt the system. The system is already bankrupt on its own. we're trying to make sure that things are fair within each generation. If we're going to change the law to fix the finances, we should do that, and I recommend that. But we should not have a system where some people get a whole lot more money than others just because they understand the rules and the others don't.
Well, with all due respect, Dr. Kotlikoff, I'm sure your book has a lot of valuable tips, but can our viewers just call the Social Security Administration and learn this stuff directly from them?
No, you wouldn't want to ask Social Security anything. You want to really be in a position to tell them what to do. The combination of this book, Get What's Yours, The Revised Secrets to Maxing Out Your Social Security, and my company's software, which is a $40 program, which is called MaximizeMySocialSecurity.com. Those two things together will put you in good stead to tell Social Security exactly what to do. I've had a lot of people that have been told the wrong thing by 8 separate people from Social Security that would have cost them tens of thousands of dollars if they had just said, okay, that's the answer.
Right.
But you know, in the end, I've kind of communicated with people at Social Security, got things fixed, but 8 people in a row had it wrong. And that's very typical. You get people all the time getting the wrong answer.
It's interesting because I hope you know that I was being facetious in asking that question as a financial advisor.
Yeah, I realize, David.
I've called also, and I've had the same result where you get so many different answers. It's frustrating. And can you tell our viewers roughly how many different ways there are that anybody approaching retirement can actually elect to take Social Security so they can better understand the complexity of this?
Well, I'll give you an idea. Suppose you're a spouse and you've got, so you're married, and maybe the husband's older than the wife. Maybe you've got a 45-year-old wife and a 62-year-old husband, and they have a disabled child. Well, there can be 25 million combinations of decisions about when they should take child and care spousal benefits, child disability benefits, disabled child benefits, let me call it that, retirement benefits for each spouse. Then there's survivor benefits for the child, for the wife. It just goes on. So
25
you need to
million.
actually have software that can handle all that.
25 million is a huge number. It's bigger than what I've heard. How about for just a normal couple entering their 60s? I'm sure that number would be a lot smaller than 25 million. So approximately what would that be?
Well, it could be as low as 500. You know, our software actually calculates the number of choices we look at. Many are dominated, so when we say that we're looking at 30,000 choices, it could it could really represent 25 million. But a typical run of our software would have 30,000 different combinations that we're actually analyzing.
Great. And that's actually gotten to be a smaller number because there were some methods that I understand were actually taken away just a few months ago in the month of April. Is that correct?
Well, there was some, the ability for younger people under 62 on January 2nd of this year, 2016, the ability of those people to take just a spousal benefit at full retirement age and let their own retirement benefit grow till 70, that's been taken away for those younger people. But there are still a lot of people in that age range between 62, let's say, and 66, who can still collect just a spousal benefit while waiting to get their own retirement benefit. Then you've got some low-income spouses or divorced spouses who can still collect on their current spouse or their ex-spouse. They can still collect spousal benefits. So it's not like we've eliminated spousal benefits. We've eliminated those for higher earning spouses, but not for low-income spouses. And then you have cases where you might have a young spouse who's too young to do this, but a 64-year-old spouse who could collect. Now you have the question, should the young spouse at 62 take her retirement benefit early so the older spouse at 66 can collect a spousal benefit on the younger spouse's work record, and then when the younger spouse reaches 66, they can suspend their benefit and wait till 70 to take a higher number. So there are lots of different combinations that we do need to consider.
You know,
because this can mean big money.
We're just starting to peel back the onion on Social Security today with you, and I can already see, the head spinning of a lot of our viewers. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with Dr. Kotlikoff, and we're going to identify some of the most common mistakes that people make when electing their Social Security benefits, and then we're going to talk to him about why he decided to throw his hat into the ring for the presidential election. We'll be right back.
The closing numbers on the markets today. At one point, the market fell as if down a well, over 700 points.
Apple shares are just getting hammered this morning.
We're down by between 3 and 4.5% generally across these markets. Let's talk about the speed with which we are watching this market deteriorate. We're red everywhere, essentially, down by 4-5%.
We're down over 16%. Dow at the same time has fallen about 18%.
The stock market is now down 21%.
Because we're now down 43%.
What in the world is happening on Wall Street?
Finally, there is an alternative. Read David J. Scranton's groundbreaking new book, Return on Principle: 7 Core Values to Help Protect Your Money in Good Times and Bad. Discover practical solutions to the financial challenges facing today's generation of retirees and near retirees. Learn the truth about Wall Street, the financial media, and the secrets they try to hide from everyday investors. This isn't just another book about investing. Working Americans who have lived through 2 major stock market crashes and the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression in the past 16 years don't need another book about investing. David Scranton's approach to financial planning is a holistic system designed for maximum protection, strategic growth, and reliable income regardless of market conditions. Stop planning for retirement with your fingers crossed. Plan with confidence, knowledge, and peace of mind. Read Return on Principle: 7 Core Values to Help Protect Your Money in Good Times and Bad. Available now.
We're back today with Dr. Laurence Kotlikoff, who, again, literally wrote the book on Social Security benefits entitled Get What's Yours: The Secrets to Maxing Out Your Social Security. Dr. Kotlikoff, tell us, what are some of the most common mistakes that cause recipients to shortchange themselves when it comes to Social Security benefits?
Well, the biggest mistake that my co-authors and I focused on in this book is impatience. Everybody has it in their mind that they're going to die on time at their life expectancy, or they're actually going to die before their life expectancy. They don't want to think about living till 96 like my mom. She's 96, because I think they're worried about jinxing themselves. They think that if they start focusing on living to an old age, they'll die tomorrow. But the real danger with financial matters when it comes to longevity is not dying early and not getting your Social Security benefits, because if you die young, you'll be in heaven, you won't need any money, right? And the real problem is living to 100 on cat food. So if you wait till 70 to take your retirement benefit, you're going to get a 76% higher number adjusted for inflation than if you take it at 62. Now, most Americans, only 2% are taking it at 70. So 98% are taking their retirement benefit before age 70. So this has got to be the wrong answer for almost, not for everybody, but for probably about 85% of the population. They're taking the benefits too early.
And when I've seen the numbers, when you factor in cost of living, many times the benefits taken at age 70 can be close to double the benefits taken at age 62, which means most people don't realize that all they really need to do is live to be 80, and they're ahead by waiting. Isn't that correct most of the time?
Yeah, well, we have to really, David, look at not just kind of a break-even scenario, because this is a insurance product. Social Security is just a big insurance company, and we have to worry about the catastrophic loss. And in the case of our house, it's our house burning down, so we get maximum coverage. Here, it's our living to 100. Maximum coverage means getting the highest benefit for the longest amount of time, and that means being patient and waiting till 70 to get the 76% higher number than if you take your benefit at 62. Now, I want to hasten to say that for many, many households, taking your benefit at 70 is not optimal. You may want to take your benefit at 62. If you're that husband who's 62 and has a younger wife and a disabled child, he may want to take his benefit early in order to get benefits going for his wife and his child. So it's a different optimal solution for each person, really. But in the main, we're taking our benefits far too early. In the main, we're not understanding all the benefits that are available to us. In the main, we're not timing things correctly. That requires knowledge and also software to get the two things straight.
Good. I love your analogy about comparing it to insurance and a catastrophic loss. I think that's very, very insightful. A lot of engineer types try to analyze the numbers as if it were just a mathematical equation. They fail to realize that catastrophic loss is what they really need to protect against. But let's have some fun for a couple minutes here. Let's talk about politics. Everybody remembers Clinton's "It's the economy, stupid," the slogan from more than 20 years ago. But it's kind of sort of still the economy, isn't it?
What is the economy? But I think it's more our children. So my slogan for my campaign is "It's our children." I'm not calling anybody stupid. I'm just saying it's our children. And the economy obviously is critical to our children, also to ourselves. But we also have, over the years, accumulated a massive fiscal bill that we're leaving our kids, a massive indebtedness that we're keeping off the books to pay for all the entitlement programs, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. And I value and cherish those programs, but the way we finance those programs is on the backs of our kids and grandchildren. So we have an enormous economic time bomb that we've laid under their legs, and we have to address that. We have to be honest. So I started this writing campaign. I wrote a 130-page book detailing exactly how I would fix things. It's a very readable book. It's not going to put you to sleep. It says in very short order how to fix each of our major problems: Social Security, the tax system, the banking system, the healthcare system, the energy policy, education, the way economists think about these things. I'm speaking in large part for my profession. I'm an economist. I'm the first economist to ever run for president. My website is Kotlikoff2016.com. I hope everybody will come and volunteer to help me and to spread the word about the website. Read the book, forward the book, and let's realize that the two parties are really not out for us. They're really out for themselves. They're out for preserving their own power. We need some real answers. We need to fix these problems, and we also need to be very firm with enemies like North Korea and Iran when they're building miniaturized nuclear bombs. In the case of North Korea, that they can put on ballistic missiles that they're now testing every day, well, not every day, but routinely, to hit us. So, and we're just sitting back. Our politicians are sitting back, ignoring that. So, I'm offering very bold leadership with respect to economic reform and with respect to foreign policy action, because we can't just sit back and say our kids will deal with the problem of North Korea having ballistic missiles that can hit everywhere in the country. No way.
You're preaching to the choir in many ways. I agree completely. So in the 30 seconds or so we have left, tell us, that it's difficult, if not impossible, as a write-in candidate to actually attain the presidency. So tell our viewers what you hope to achieve by this effort.
Well, I do expect to become president. It was difficult for the Ukrainians to get together and overthrow their dictator. It was difficult for the Egyptians to get together and overthrow Mubarak. But the way they did that was with the internet. The internet is really empowering each of us to have a huge megaphone. So if each of us go to this website, Kotlikoff2016.com, and let everybody in the country know that all they have to do is go to the poll and write me in and my vice presidential candidate. It's just going to be, Laurence Kotlikoff for president, and whoever the vice president is for vice president. That's just as easy as pulling a lever for a politician that you don't want. 57% of our country do not want either Secretary Clinton or Mr. Trump to be president. I'm offering an option.
And I've actually read your paper, for president, but don't write me in. So that's at your website. So for our viewers, or I'm sorry, I think I misspoke. I'm right here. It says write me in, but don't send me a penny. That's right.
Yeah, I'm trying to get across the idea that it's not money that we need, it's votes. And it's viral exchange of information. We need a network to just expand and expand exponentially. And they've done this all around the world. with political organizations, and we can do it here in the U.S. We do not need to be beholden to the Democrats or Republicans anymore. They're passé.
You can go to Dr. Kotlikoff's website. You can get his white paper, write me in, but don't send me a penny. Doctor, thank you very much for your time today. I very much appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
We'll be right back in a minute with Morgan Thompson, and she and I will talk about strategies that can help you get the most out of the Social Security system. Stay with us. We'll be right back. If you're near or in retirement, head over to theincomegeneration.com and download your special report written specifically for the needs of the income generation, again, those born before 1966. I'm David Scranton, and you've been watching The Income Generation.
As always, a lot of great information, David. And I know you wanted to use this segment to address some of the questions viewers might have about the basics of Social Security and cover some not so basic issues.
Absolutely, yes. You know, Social Security benefits are calculated based upon people's average earnings.
Okay.
And the formula that the Social Security Administration uses, as you could probably imagine with any governmental formula, is somewhat complicated. But the bottom line is that, you know, the more years you work and the higher your income, you generally get a higher benefit.
So I want to qualify, it's actually over a lifetime.
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct. It's over a lifetime of earnings.
And what determines your primary insurance amount, or PIA?
Well, what they do is they take this average income that I mentioned and they
Okay.
actually index it up for an assumed inflation rate. So the fact that in your early years maybe you made 10 or 15,000 and now you're making a lot more, it doesn't work against you because they index that up. And they
Okay.
average it together. They actually take the highest 35 years and that becomes your primary insurance amount. Now, what that means is that for people who actually haven't worked 35 years, for people who worked maybe 20 or 30, maybe moms that decide to take some time off and stay home with their children, they're going to get a significantly reduced Social Security rate because they haven't had the 35 years of income. And what
Right.
basically happens is if you have a zero income year, then it's put in the average as a zero.
Okay.
And one other thing I want you to know is that what they also do is they skew it toward the first dollars of income, so that if somebody makes $100,000 a year before they retire instead of $30,000, that person making 100 might get less than double the benefit of the person making 30. So it's not proportional. It's
Okay.
skewed to help the people who really need it that much more. But again, the primary insurance amount, the PIA, is what somebody gets at standard retirement age.
Okay, and what is standard retirement age?
Okay, great question. Well, for our income generation members who were born between 1943 and 1954, standard retirement age is age 66. That's considered to be the age at which that you get the full standard rate based upon this calculation I just mentioned. You actually get your PIA, your primary insurance amount. But for our significantly younger viewers, people maybe in your age bracket, for example, then there's a phase-out period where standard retirement age is somewhere between age 66 and 67.
Okay, so it's not really a set in stone thing.
That's correct.
So what if I decided to take retirement as early as possible, say age 62? How would that affect me?
Well, if you take it early, you get a reduced benefit.
Okay.
So let's assume that, again, for our average income generation member, that your standard retirement age, the age at which you get your primary insurance amount, is age 66. You're born between 1943 and 1954. If that's the case, then every year that you retire early, you actually get a 6 2/3% reduction in benefit. So that means if you retire at age 65, you get 93.3% of the benefit. And if you retire at 62, that last year it's only a 5% reduction. So if you retire at 62, for that standard age viewer, as I described it, you actually get 3/4 of what they get at 66. So literally, by retiring 4 years early, you lose 1/4 of your benefit.
Okay, so that doesn't sound good. As long as I'm healthy, let's say I want to wait as long as possible and retire at age 70, how much extra do I get then?
Well, at age 70, that's the maximum.
Okay.
And at age 70, if you don't take it by age 70, which there's no reason not to, you wouldn't get any additional benefits by waiting beyond that.
Oh.
So what you do is you get 8% per year, simple interest on top of that. So from age 66 to 70, by the way, and I know your standard retirement age is going to be 67, but for 66 to 70 in my previous example, that means you're getting 132% of what you'd get at age 66 at age 70. Now, it gets a little bit bigger than that. The difference is bigger because when you factor in cost of living raises, historically speaking, what that means is for many of you watching the show, if you wait from age 62 to age 70, instead of getting 75% of the benefit, you're getting 132% of the benefit, which is less than double. But when you factor in cost of living increases, in many cases, it's literally double. So by waiting 8 short years, you can often double your Social Security benefits that you'll get every single year for the rest of your lifetime.
Wow. So it really makes sense to wait to age 70 if you can, and certainly there's no point in waiting past it because you don't get anything extra.
There are a lot of factors that go into that, such as health, longevity in the family, but also goes on your personal needs and your personal situation, how much you have in other assets. So it's a more complex answer to that question, but just mathematically speaking, if you're going to live past age 80, yes, delaying to age 70 actually gives you more benefits.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, we're going to take a break right now, but don't go anywhere because when we come back, we're going to discuss more crucial things about Social Security that you need to know.
Read David J. Scranton's groundbreaking new book, Return on Principle, 7 Core Values to Help Protect Your Money in Good Times and Bad. Discover practical solutions to the financial challenges facing today's generation of retirees and near retirees. David Scranton's approach to financial planning is a holistic system designed for maximum protection, strategic growth, and reliable income regardless of market conditions. Available now.
Welcome back to The Income Generation. Today, we're discussing Social Security, how it works, and what you should know. Now, David, I'm curious to know, how are you taxed on benefits, and are there ways to minimize your tax obligation?
Well, traditionally, benefits were not supposed to be taxable.
Okay.
And you might remember President Bush, the first President Bush, saying, "Read my lips, no new taxes." And then,
yeah, how'd that work out for
him?
Well,
the end result was that up to half your Social Security benefits could be taxed.
Okay.
And then President Clinton came in a few years later and said, well, heck, if we're going to tax half of it, we might as well tax 85% of the benefits.
Okay.
But what the government has done is they put together this thing called provisional income formula, where they take your total income, and they add to it 1/2 of your Social Security benefits, and in some cases up to 85% of the benefits. Then they add to that what's supposed to be your tax-free municipal bond interest, so it's really not tax-free. And then if that income is over a certain amount, then part of your Social Security is taxed. The problem is those amounts at which your Social Security becomes taxed are really fairly low. For example, it's $25,000 or $32,000, whether you're single or whether you're joint taxpayer filing jointly. And when you add in half your Social Security benefits to get to $25,000 or $32,000, it's really not that high of a number, which means, unfortunately, for most Americans collecting Social Security, yes, some of your benefits are taxed because you've got pension benefits, required minimum distributions, interest and dividends, and everything that cause it to be taxed.
Now, are there ways in which your benefits might be reduced or even taken away after you start receiving them?
Yes. Even worse is the fact that you can lose benefits. And what they really do is they don't take them away. You actually have to give them back after you've received them. So it's kind of like, it's really a concern because it has to do with working. The taxable issue we talked about had to do with total income from interest, dividends, required minimum distributions, pensions, and so on. The reduction of benefits, the requirement to pay back benefits, only has to do with those who are working and earn income by going to work. And this is whether they're self-employed or they work for a company. Now, if you wait till standard retirement age, again, 66 or 67, then you can go back to work, you can make as much money as you want, and you do not have to give back any of your benefits. However, if you start collecting your benefits before standard retirement age, and you make over a certain limit in terms of your earned income, and that limit is actually quite low. It's actually lower than the limits at which Social Security is taxed. But if you earn over that limit from going to work, either W-2 or self-employed income, then yes, you end up having to give back a good part of those Social Security benefits.
Okay.
Let's face it, no one ever wants to have to try to make sense out of a lot of complex government rules and regulations. In fact, as I told Dr. Kotlikoff earlier, I'm sure that many of your heads were spinning just from everything we covered today. But be happy that you did. Why? Because hopefully this information is going to help you a lot when it comes to addressing this important milestone in your own retirement plan. If I had to identify just 2 key takeaways from today's show, first, I'd say that understanding that maximizing the value of your Social Security benefits involves identifying the best time and overall strategy for taking them. And it requires making sure that your other assets are well allocated for retirement. That means making sure that they're also secure and geared toward generating dependable income. In addition to that, though, understanding that this part of retirement planning is simply too important to take lightly or to try to guesstimate. In fact, as Dr. Kotlikoff pointed out, doing it the right way takes knowledge and also takes the right software. In other words, it takes working ideally with a qualified financial advisor, whom I believe ideally is one who specializes in the universe of income-generating investment strategies. I once had a gentleman tell me that he didn't want to take the time to come to my office to go over his Social Security options because he hasn't retired yet and he was all out of vacation time. Taking a day off from work would simply cost him too much money. As it turned out, this particular gentleman was making about $100,000 a year. So I estimated that taking one day off would have cost him about $400. And I asked him, what if by coming in you could end up earning an extra $100,000 in benefits, an entire year's salary? Wouldn't that be worth a $400 investment to make $100,000 extra over the course of your lifetime? Clearly, it didn't take him a long time to give that thought. He ended up coming in, and to this day, he's thankful that he did. Before we go, I again want to thank my special guest, Dr. Laurence Kotlikoff. I also want to thank all of our regular viewers, as well as those of you watching for the first time. And I want to announce, as promised a moment ago, a special surprise, because, you know, in showbiz, it's all about ratings. And I am not above or beyond bribing you, our loyal viewers, to get better ratings. So as a result of that, you can, for more information and to see how you can qualify for us, Sound Income Strategies, doing a free Social Security screening, go to our website, theincomegeneration.com, right after the show. There you can also download a copy of our white paper entitled Social Security Allocations, as well as you can access other free materials packed with helpful and important information, including my special report entitled The Income Generation and our newest report entitled Renewable Retirement Resources, a Case for Fixed Income. Again, you can find all those and register to receive my bribe, your free Social Security analysis, at theincomegeneration.com. I'm David Scranton, and thanks for watching.